Hi everyone, so let's talk about the Axelum IPO. Here are the things that you need to know to give you the right decision whether you should invest in the company or not. We have the chairman and CEO joining us today. Check this video out. Guys, this is Romeo Chan of Axelum Resources. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah, it's exciting now after a very long drought of no IPOs in the PSE. Now we have a slew of IPOs coming out, and then this is something very refreshing. This is something very new that we haven't really seen a pure coconut play come into the market and for opportunities for Filipinos to invest in. But before that, I'd like to ask more about yourself first, because it's not just about investing in the company, but investing in the people who are behind the company itself. Okay. What led you into this? What led you into this business?
Well, we started this business in 1986. That was towards the end of the Marcos dictatorship, and that was the EDSA revolution in February 1986. Okay? But prior to that, in 1982, with the assassination of Ninoy Aquino, everything was going downhill. Foreign investment was not coming in, massive capital flight. So there were many people who were out of jobs, and this particular opportunity came up because the factory was shut down for almost a year. And this is in a remote fishing village in the province of Misamis Oriental called Medina, halfway between Butuan City and Cagayan de Oro City. People were unemployed, there was no activity in town, and there was this factory sitting idle. And we saw that opportunity and thought we could contribute something to the local economy, and by doing so, we could maybe help the Philippines, get out of its doldrums.
Okay, so but when that started, the dilemma of entrepreneurs is, what do I start? Were you set already that this is what I'll purchase, this is the business that I want to start, or you had other options, or did you try this, and this was the only one that flew? That's why you doubled down on it.
You're right there. We did try others. We looked at many because there were so many opportunities that time.
Okay.
Simply because nobody was interested in going into business, right?
Especially that time.
Yes, that time. So remember, interest rates went as high as 50%. I mean, how can you survive in that environment, right? So this, as I said, this opportunity came up, and we looked at it. I flew down there, and I was so sad and depressed by what I saw. The whole town was in darkness, and the technical and professional managers, the engineers, they were up in the mountains, acting as caingeros to get firewood just to sell them, to survive. Or they'd go to the shore in the morning, wait for their neighbor fishermen to come in with their boats, beg to borrow their boats, and they go fishing in the morning. What do you fish in the daytime? There's nothing to catch. Okay? And then, even if they come back with a slight catch, there's no buyer because there was no money. Okay? So when we started the factory, you have economic indicators like Bloomberg, or you can use the stock exchange as an indicator. In the case of Medina, the economic indicator were our two chimneys. If there was white smoke coming out of it, credit was open. So that was the beginning. Okay.
Okay, so basically the heart of this was you started it because there was good opportunity. There wasn't really nothing happening in the town as well. So parang to create jobs in that area, or you saw it already that malaki upside ng coconuts. There will be a large market for this later on in the future.
Well, to be honest about it, that time everybody was saying that coconut was a sunset industry. Okay, but the way we looked at it, that we were going into the food and possibly beverage. Okay, so food is always in demand, right? Population growth. Now, where to position ourselves, we didn't know how to go about it. And I realized we had to grow, but little by little, we're able to find our way. And I was backed up by a team of managers. I mean, there were at least 4 of us who started it. And up to today, we're still the same team. They've stuck it out with us.
So for those who don't know, no, what are the products also that Axelum has? What are your offerings? Kasi when people started asking about what the IPO was, everyone just knew it was coconut, but they didn't know what it was.
Okay. Well, here we have the samples of the products. This is desiccated coconut.
Okay.
This is the biggest volume that we have. We produce. Here is a pack of SM bonus. We pack for them as well. Okay. But the usage of desiccated coconut is primarily in the confectionery and baking industry. Confectionery, you find these in chocolate bars like Hershey's, Almond Joy, and Mounds. You find it in the Raffaello of Ferrero, the round white ball. Okay. In baking, a lot of it goes to toppings in bakes, and you can also bake macaroons out of it. Another product that we have from a different technology will be the coconut milk. Okay. And here we distinguish between the regular coconut milk and the organic in the green pack.
Okay.
Okay. So it's organic and regular. And where is this used? Primarily used for liquid applications like drinks, pina colada is very popular, or even yogurt, and for ice cream. Okay. Another product we have using spray dry technology will be to process the milk into coconut milk powder. And this is very, very popular for culinary purposes, especially among the Asian population because of curry. Okay, so the Indians, of course, use a lot of curry, Middle East, but even Japan, because Japan has its own version of curry, different from the Indian curry, right? Now, we also, from our other byproducts, we also pack the coconut water. So this is a growth driver because, as you know, the Western market is beginning to be conscious of the advantages of coconuts, right? In this case, in application for health, wellness, even for beauty. We also have coconut oil, cooking oil, which is very healthy. Okay? And this is an example of how the roasted coconut that we have is used for biscuits, okay, in the baking industry. So it's a whole range of products that we offer.
When you started out, was any of this parang on your product line kagad? You were envisioning this, or you were selling other things at the onset first?
When we started, we only had 2 products with 2 small lines. There's one small line for desiccated and one for coconut milk powder. Okay, that's all we had. It was a baby spray dryer. Today we have massive dryers, going as high as 8 stories high. Yeah. And we're able to churn out the product that the market requires. Okay?
I see this most of the time. This is one of the more popular brands worldwide also. What made you pivot into knowing that this will be a very, very big industry later on?
Well, to be honest, we didn't know it was going to be big.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, when the owners of Vita Coco came to see us, they were enticing us to go into commercial production or to scale up our commercial production of coconut water. We were shipping out coconut water before that, but very minimal containers. Okay, Vita Coco said, look into this and let's, why don't we set up a plan for that? Not knowing what we were getting into, we decided to try it, and before we knew it, there was a sudden explosion of the demand for coconut water.
What year was this?
2009.
Also, wow.
Yeah.
So just the past decade lang talaga.
Yes, just 10 years.
Wow.
And in those 10 years, the coconut water business grew to a size of at least $1 billion. Okay, and studies say that if your product or category goes beyond $300 million a year, it's no longer considered a fad.
That's that's amazing. I didn't know it was just the past decade lang na it started to grow that fast.
Yeah. Well, Vita Coco started in 2004.
Yeah.
Very small operation. They were buying from Brazil. It's when they came to us in 2009. We were the very first Asian supplier. Okay, and then they also developed other Asian suppliers to produce the volume that they required to cater to that explosion.
Now, people always talk about the success of people in business, but I always want to ask, it's nice to look at the success, but at the point of the 30 years that you were in business, was there a time that you had something that was very, very hard as an entrepreneur that while you were starting, this was a big hit in my business, and how were you able to pivot and at least either learn or discard that mistake and then do something else that's better?
Well, Marvin, we started this with very, very little capital. Okay, it was actually borrowed capital, 5 million pesos. Okay, and we were operating in a very challenging environment. I described to you already how hard up people were, but remember at that time, we were going to be an export company, but we had no port to ship out of.
Oh.
We had to load our 100-pound desiccated bags into barges, bring them to Manila, strip the barges, stuff them into foreign containers to ship out. We didn't have power, reliable. We were suffering almost 16 to 20 hours blackouts, okay? We didn't have communications. We were using single sidebands over, and we're supposed to be an exporter. Can you imagine that? And the biggest challenge, of course, was the people. Our people were living in very, very dire conditions. They didn't even have running water in their houses, okay? So we had to go to the communities and put up community toilets, put up deep wells for them. Because without water and the toilets, how do you expect them to have an appreciation of basic sanitary practices? And not just because they enter the factory gate, all of a sudden, they know how to be clean and how to be food safety conscious. We had to train the people. We had to bring the fight to their homes. Education, okay? Because we're supposed to be exporting, right? Now, guess what happened? Little capital, nobody gave us a chance of surviving more than a year. Our first 2 containers we shipped were rejected.
Whoa.
Yep.
What happened?
Quality issues. It was moldy. Okay.
So tapon na lahat.
Exactly.
Oh.
So that was a big challenge to say, okay, that made us work harder and say, let's bottom down on this. Let's see what we can do to improve the quality and so on and so forth.
But at that point, when you were starting, did it affect? Of course, you might have needed the money more at that time, and the sales from that would have benefited from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you were still able to stay afloat in spite of that.
It was tough, believe me. Yeah, that was a big challenge, and of course, psychologically, that had a big impact on us. No, parang we were counting on this. Eto na, and then, but. We went there, we flew to see the customer, we explained what happened, and then we fixed the problem. We replaced the containers, and since then, the customer became a very steady customer of ours.
Wow. This is not connected to the IPO anymore, but I hope you don't mind me asking. There are a lot of people who watch this that are aspiring entrepreneurs. You said you took a loan at 5 million when you were starting. If I'm an entrepreneur, I'm starting out, when do I know when I should take a loan or just bootstrap it, use my own money and then just grow organically? Or when do I know that I need to get investors as well?
Well, you know the size of the loan that you need because of the working capital, right? I mean, we couldn't run an operation like this, with 100,000 pesos. Right? And we had to put up some of our own as well. But in terms of how far you can go with that money, you just have to be very, very judicious, okay? And we were very tight, obviously. Everything was bootstrapping, no? And we always ask our people the same question. You're asking me to put up this facility, this equipment, you want this, you want that. We ask a simple question. If it were your money, would you do it? And they always come back and say, oh, sir, maybe we can make do with what we have. We don't have to buy a new thing. And believe me, in the last 30 years, we never bought anything firsthand.
Oh.
Everything was secondhand, subastahan. We go to a factory which is closed down, we buy the roof, we buy the building, move it to our place, we buy secondhand equipment. An example would be when White Swaco, the infant milk manufacturer, shut down their plant in Pasantamo. We went and we bought their old spray dryers because they were putting up new facilities in Canlubang, which they did, okay? So we bought the old spray dryers. We'd buy everything second-hand, third-hand pa nga. One of the buildings you'll see when you come to the plant, our gym and several production areas, the roof and the building trusses we bought from Nissan. We cut them up one by one, GI sheet by GI sheet, brought it to our plant, and we assemble it there. If you look at our oil tankers, the big oil tankers, you'll see that all of them have belts. Mean to say, we cut them and we weld them together again. Kaya may sinturon yun. So that's what you'll see in our plant. Okay.
Very resourceful, and you know how to be prudent with the money that you have.
You know how it is, Marvin, di ba? If you have a glass and your capital is this much, the rest is effort.
Wow.
People have a lot of capital, their effort is very little. Ganun lang yun. Di ba?
Wow. Well said. Speaking of that, speaking of capital, you're having an IPO. Why are you doing the IPO, and why just now?
We thought about it a lot. Okay. I mean, that's a very, very soul-searching question. All these years, I, Henry, our president, Arman Nanyawa, who's in charge of US, Paul Tayag in charge of our technical operations, research, and the European market, we said we're happy with where we are. We've been growing, we're making money through the years, and we would not expand unless we made the money first. Okay, so we were growing organically, but it took us 33 years to get to where we are. Okay, today, rather than being a sunset industry, there's a sudden awareness in the Western markets of how coconut is a driver for health, wellness, and even beauty. Many people can take advantage of it, like Vita Coco today. I would hate to see other new entrants into the business taking advantage of that, that consciousness and that demand, while we who have been around for so many years are left behind because we didn't have the money. So we said, let's go to the capital markets, bring in the money, because more than these other guys, we know what to do with that money. We know what to put it in, what product to develop, what equipment we need, and most of all, we know the customers who want it.
Wow. And I was in the briefing that there was a figure that demand for coconut has increased by, correct me if I'm wrong, 8% per year?
For desiccated coconut.
Okay.
But for coconut water, it's something like 20%.
Okay.
More than, yeah.
So, coconut water will be one of the biggest drivers over the next years.
It is, and it will continue to be a good driver, But not only coconut water per se, there will be other, variations to come from the base product coconut water.
Okay.
In fact, Vita Coco is the leader of that. They've come up with a product called pressed coconut, which is coconut water combined with coconut milk, and they're looking at many, many other applications.
Right. From the IPO proceeds, whatever you can share, what would be the basic use of the ones that you would use aside from the ones for debt repayment and the ones that are the secondary offering? What will be the primary usage of it?
Well, one, expansion of our marketing channels. Okay? We like to see, because right now we own an operation in the US, which is a distribution, sales, as well as a factory. In Australia, it's a sales office. We'd like to expand that in the model of the US. We want to put up another channel like that somewhere in Europe, and of course, South America. That's a big market that's waiting.
Okay. Speaking of IPOs, we talked about your primary shares. Now we're talking about the secondary shares. There's a significant portion of the IPO that's being sold by a fund in Singapore, and people are asking, why are they selling? Is it something that we should be concerned about, that they're exiting the business at this early onset of the IPO?
A good question, yeah. Our private equity investor is Crescent Point. Okay, Crescent Point Compass, a Singaporean-based fund. Okay, I think they really did the research work well, because to the world we are totally unknown. I think we're one of the best kept secrets, and they found us. Okay. And I think today they'll be rewarded.
Did you pitch to them, or did they come to you?
They came. They were looking.
Okay.
Yeah. And they found us, and and they were going to be rewarded very much by this. Okay, so what happened was, since we all, the management team and the primary shareholders, don't want to get out, don't want to sell, because we believe in the business. We believe it's only now it's going to even grow more. We required substantial, public flow. Okay, 20% minimum as required. So we convinced them. We asked them to, sell their shares. Okay, they were reluctant to do so. In fact, originally they were supposed to sell 430 million shares. After discussions, they said we don't really want to sell. So today we scale it down to 100 million shares. So they're only selling 100 million out of the original 430 million.
Okay.
Because they said there's going to be an upside to this, okay? And we want to enjoy that upside as well. It's too early for them to get out.
Okay.
So the 100 million shares plus of their secondary shares, including plus our 700 million primary shares, make up the minimum 20% requirement.
All right. So at least that clears it up for a lot of people as well. Now let's.
Well, it tells you a lot now if they don't want to sell. They cut it back already.
Now here's what's interesting. Let's talk about some of the risks naman for people planning to invest.
Okay.
Number one, does the U.S.-China trade war have any impact into all of this, since the exports are also bound for the U.S. markets as well?
Okay. In terms of the trade war, okay, the only impact on us will be like any other company that's listed in the stock market. No? Will be affected by the stock market, obviously, the sentiment, depending on how the trade war goes. But our business per se, it has nothing to do with that. Okay. Because we export directly to the U.S., we don't have much business in between, that goes to China and the U.S. But obviously, the overall sentiment in the stock market will certainly affect our coming in.
Okay. So, but fundamentally, no impact on business operations, revenue.
So. No impact on that.
Okay, good to know. Another thing, risks also. Since you have coconut oil as well, how does the oil prices, does it have any weighting on your profit, sales, if prices drag down, that's relatively lower as well?
Oh, okay. Of course. I mean, but you have to remember, we don't, unlike the coconut oil industry where they really buy copra, white meat, to produce coconut oil, we are using a byproduct, what we call the brown skin or testa of the coconut meat that we expel oil from. And it's a very small portion of our business. Actually, it's something we can do away with.
Okay.
Because it's just a throwaway thing.
Yeah.
So we get our brown skin, we shave it, okay, to expose the white meat. And then instead of throwing it away, we dry them mechanically, we extract oil from it. And even further down the road, the residual fibers that remain, we call it pairing cake, we sell it to the animal industry. So it's just maximizing the whole coconut.
And I guess this is something that a lot of people need to know. In your coconut, nothing gets wasted, everything gets sold, everything has revenue. Everything has revenue.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we're able to refine that, through the years by investing in different technologies, how to maximize usage of every component of the coconut.
Now, here's what's interesting. Since coconut is considered also a commodity, what protects Axelum from competitors trying to come in and get a piece of the pie or try to get a portion of your business also?
Well, for one, the customers we've been dealing with, have been with us for many years, right? And they require very rigid quality standards of food safety, not only food safety, but also, along the issues of physical, chemical, microbiological, the color, the taste, the food profile. So quality is a big deal with them. So you need to be able to hurdle all those certifications to be able to sell to them. So a new entrant will have a hard time doing that because it's a chicken and egg situation, Without those certifications, you cannot sell to them. If you can't sell to them, you cannot get a track record for a certification, So it's not going to be that easy.
So it's not as hard, it's not as simple. If I want to penetrate this market, start this business here, they won't easily topple you down.
Well, you can always go to the secondary or tertiary markets, the ones who don't demand to, but of course,
the quality changes.
as our Indian friends would say, cheap no good, good no cheap.
Okay.
But it's available. I mean, you can go there.
Okay. That being said, speaking of competitors, do you have any large-scale competitor in the Philippines or somewhere overseas? Is there any country that can compete with what we're doing here as well?
Okay. On a global scale, the biggest competitor would be Indonesia because they have the most coconut population, okay? And they keep planting. But the thing is, Indonesia may be the biggest producer of coconuts, but they're also a huge, there's a huge domestic consumption, okay, in Indonesia. That's why they're not the biggest exporter. The Philippines is the biggest exporter, although we're only secondary in terms of production. But the way I look at it is this, okay? The other companies who are in the same business as we are, I look at them as friendly competition and in fact partners. Because I look at us as Philippines Incorporated. The more products like this that go to the markets abroad, the more the Philippines will be recognized. We take pride, especially if you're a Filipino abroad and you see a product in the supermarket shelves and you say, wow, made in the Philippines. It stirs up that pride. So for me, I welcome that. I welcome to have our friends in the same industry. For example, there are very good companies like Franklin Baker, Peter Paul, Primex, Sundrive, Superstar. They're all good companies. They all preserve the good quality to make Philippines proud because they're able to penetrate also the top tier markets.
Wow.
So that's good for the Philippines. So I don't look at them as competition, but rather as partners of Philippines Inc.
Okay.
Because that's what we want to promote,
yeah.
diba? To promote the Philippines.
And to see, I like what you said before we start this, that people change the perception of the Philippines, that we're not just domestic helpers, we're not just people working abroad, that it's time that they shift also, that we have something that we can export here, that's something that's world class.
Exactly, yeah. And to top tier customers, tier 1 customers, diba? Marquee name, brand names like Hershey, Ferrero, there's so many of them that we sell to. And it stirs some pride in us,
Wow. This was something sent by one of our subscribers. They were asking, what's the sustainability of the business since this is an agri product? How will climate change impact the business and how do you maintain biodiversity in the area?
We're working hand in hand with PCA to try to develop or revitalize the coconut industry. The most common, of course, is replanting. And with the farmers, to improve their livelihood, we try to teach them how to do higher value products. For example, we have a demo farm, which is around 15 hectares, where we bring in indigenous farmers from the mountains. We teach them organic practices and how to make their own organic fertilizers. Okay. So with that, they're able to grow coconuts that are organic. We give them the seedlings, they plant them, and then we buy those coconuts at a premium. So that increases, their income. At the same time, we teach them intercropping. Okay. Now, climate change, we cannot stop that. Either tremendous typhoon or El Nino. But remember, we're in Mindanao, so we're not really that affected by the typhoons. But El Nino, it comes once every 5 years. So all we need to do is really keep on planting and keep on planting more hectarage. And hopefully, with the help of the government, like the Philippine Coconut Authority, the Department of Agriculture, Secretary Dar, who's been very supportive of our industry, we will be able to keep on revitalizing the industry and make it meaningful to the farmers.
Wow. In that line, so another question sent by our subscribers, how are you doing succession planning? Also, is this a family run business? Do you have any family that's part of either management or leadership as well? Or are you grooming other people that are not really connected anymore to the 4 founders' family members?
Okay, great. That's true. That's a question asked of usual IPO companies. This is something which the founding members, family members would like to sell and get out of the business. To start with, we're not a family corporation. We're a group of professionals who started the business together, and none of us have children in the business. We consider the people we groom, the professionals that we train through the years to be our children. So we would like to pass on this company to them. Okay, that is for me a better approach because we went through the same thing ourselves. We're all professionals. We got together, and it worked. Okay, my father, being a businessman and Chinese, he used to say, you're not worth anything, son, until you start your own business. But I've seen many family businesses, okay, and they get into trouble because they're all by themselves, right? Of course, the exceptions will be the Aboitiz family, maybe the Ayalas. But we thought with professionals getting together, for example, if somebody dies in the family, everybody's in the funeral parlor. Who's running the store, right? In our case, somebody is sick, the rest take over. And these people we've been grooming, especially in our plant, the young people, the managers, the technicians, the quality analysts, the quality lab people. They're all part and parcel of what we call our family.
Wow.
So we expect them to eventually take over.
Wow. Well said. Just a couple of questions more. The IPO price was first set at 6.81, and then there was a disclosure that it would be limited to as high as 5.70. I believe there's a new price already.
There's
now.
a new price, yes.
Okay. Do you want to announce?
Yeah. Well, the price that we registered with the PSC and we're registering with the SEC is 5 pesos. Okay. Right. And the reason for that is we feel it's a combination of a reflection of what the company's value is, but discounted to give an upside to investors. Okay? Because the original 680, if we feel that it's the real value of the company, somebody comes in, what money will he make, right? Okay? And the best proof of that is our partner, Crescent Point, decided to hold back because they feel that they can ride with the upside in the future. Okay?
Wow.
So they're just complying with the minimum requirement for the float of 20%. They're now selling only 100 million secondary shares.
Wow, amazing. Lastly, where do you see Axelum in the next 10 years? And any words of inspiration for Filipinos that want to be entrepreneurs like you who at least dream that everyone wants to start their own business? Any inspiring words for them?
Well, okay. It's natural for us to try to go to business because you want to live comfortably, you want to support your family, you want your children to go to good schools, right? I mean, but beyond that, to be really successful, I think you have to look beyond your own personal needs. You realize that we live in a country which is struggling, we're not a first world country. There are many people who need jobs. And if you work with that kind of motivation, believe me, things will work in your favor. Because it's not only our ability, our human capability that brings success, it has a lot to do with heaven as well. The graces come in because you're trying to be an instrument for God's grace to help others as well. Regarding this IPO, my advice to investors is don't invest in Axelum if you just want to get in and get out, make a fast buck, okay? Rather invest in it for the long term. Because this company will be here for long and it will be profitable as time goes on. It will continue to be profitable as it was.
Wow.
So, long-term investment.
And please remember, for those who want to be investors, don't just look at the price, look at the company as well, because the price is just a reflection also of the long-term value of the company. So thank you so much for this time.
Yeah.
So offer period will be this September 24. So I hope this helps you at least have the right foundation and the right data so you get to analyze and I guess decide on how much to invest, what to invest, and the best way kasi to make money in the market is you come in knowing what you're getting into, and at least you have a strategy of the risks and the rewards attached to it as well. So thank you so much, and I hope this video gave you the right insight on what you're supposed to do with your finances, and I hope it helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon. Bye everyone.